Welcome. Suggested ancestor and migrations. In the case of the Y-DNA mosaic, consensus presents Group A, Alpha, in Africa as the ancestor, and will give it follow-up into Western Eurasia by means of R and into the Americas by means of Q. However, as explained, over 10 fundamental proofs do indicate the aberrant Q as the ancestor and not a follow-up. Since consensus does not present Q as the ancestor of all humans, I will do so in this video. This for you to be able to decide for yourself how you interpret the by scientists and consensus presented haplogroups and mosaic. So the only thing that I will do is presenting group Q as the ancestor, and next I will let fundamentals and indications present the follow-up until the whole mosaic is filled up, or in other words until all the world is populated with modern humans. I claim that with the explanation of some fundamentals and indications, the general public can effectively see for itself the migrations and populating of the world, starting from the ancestor Q, the ancestor that the fundamental proofs suggested, and this without the need for me or someone else to suggest the follow-up and migrations by means of arrows based on some hypothesis. Group speaking for themselves. First of all, something very remarkable about Q. Group Q on its own presents presence or frequencies on all continents and countries of the planet, roughly except Africa, Australia, Japan and Papua New Guinea. That looks like a very promising fact for the start of the by fundamentals suggested ancestor Q to populate the whole world. Intermezzo. Differently, Group A, Alpha, as suggested by consensus only presents itself in Africa, and this in an area of only 10% of Africa. Presented. Presence Group A in Africa. Aridity zones in Africa. Population density of Africa. Remarkable is that this covered area of 10% is located in some of the most arid parts of Africa with consequent very low population density that is represented by indigenous people with pygmy morphology that seem to have retracted themselves, or are pushed back, in a number of rather isolated arid areas, the main one being located in the extreme southwestern corner of Africa and the second one in or bordering the Sahara or a trans-Sahara zone. The by consensus suggested ancestor A, Alpha, nor B, the descendant or sister group of A, Alpha, does present the characteristics of the groups that are proven to have turned over the world roughly between 10,000 and 4,000 years ago, nor is the group that will turn over the world present in Africa, but instead has its root and cradle in North America and parts from that root and cradle in North America, and clearly not from somewhere in Africa or even Eurasia for that matter. For starter, the by consensus suggested ancestor A, Alpha, nor its descendant or sister group B present the Neanderthal fraction that the invaders took with them from their root and cradle in the Americas and consequently descended this fraction of Neanderthal DNA to the modern humans living today, the enigmatic 2% of Neanderthal DNA in the case of Western Eurasians. While all or much regarding African A, Alpha, and B is fascinating, the given was not promising for the by consensus supposed ancestor A, Alpha, that had to populate the rest of the world in a record tempo, this without the characteristics and without the Neanderthal DNA. End of intermezzo. Starting off with Q presenting only some of the very first steps, based on fundamentals, will already present the populating of the whole world. This simplification makes the mosaic much more easy to read, as well as the migrations and confirmation or rejection of the ancestor based on fundamentals. Q on its own. As proven by fundamentals, the group Q by itself presents South America as the basis or cradle and populates the whole world, except for Africa, Australia, Japan and Papua New Guinea. Possibly some 60 to 80% of the world is covered to some extent by Q alone. That is not a bad start to confirm the fundamentals and the direct population of the world by Q and its descendants. Q and R, the extended Q on its own. R has its root R1 in the Americas, and by having its root in the Americas makes R an extension of Q, so taking it in as the next step after the ancestor Q is quite logical. Adding only R to Q already fills in to some extent or frequency the North Africa part and the Saharan part of Africa and roughly half of Australia and reinforces the presence of Q in some parts of with weaker presence of Q in the rest of the world. Even in the Americas R reinforces parts that did not have full frequency of Q yet. This way, by only 2 haplogroups, most of the world is populated. However, sub-Saharan Africa is still far from being covered and half of Australia is still uncovered, not populated. Also Japan and New Guinea, that are not so big, remain uncovered, not populated. Thank you for watching.